All right, guys, welcome back to the Heroes of the Storm Road to BlizzCon qualifiers. I am Gillyweed, and joining me in this cast is ShaneGoocher. Hello, Shane.
Hello, Gilly.
How's it going?
It's going good. Going good. Impressed by Plato. They played really well. They had that dive-heavy composition with a Nubrak and Tyrael, which reminisce of way back in Alpha when we had like Tyrael Sonya. It was that same sort of idea where they would just get into the back line, leap on top of a judgment. Those were different days, but it's still kind of that same mindset. They're taking a page out of that old strategy book and dusting it off a little bit. And I really like it. They executed it well. They were able to get in the back line, pick off people. I mean, at one point they were so far ahead they could just focus on Murden. Once they got those 3 blood for bloods up, that Murden was not a happy camper.
No, he was not. He was not a happy dwarf at all. But I still appreciated the dwarf squad. They came out with all of the Lost Vikings as well as Falstad and Murden. But we are hopping into the draft, so I'm going to switch over to that. And there we go. So we are going to be on Tomb of the Spider Queen, a little bit smaller of a map. So flick of the wrist, choosing to say, okay, that map was too big. We're going to go for more of a small, tight corners, dark, scary map. We're going to be on Tomb of the Spider Queen. And right away, Plato is going to ban Brightwing, but flick of the wrist, banning Kerrigan.
I like the Kerrigan ban, Tomb of the Spider Queen, one of my personal favorite maps, or battlegrounds, to cast on, just because it's a small map and it facilitates hyper-aggression, and Kerrigan is the queen of hyper-aggression. We all know her because of her early game presence, so I like that ban quite a bit. With PPST banning the Brightwing and then subsequently picking up an Uther, they are showing signs they might possibly go with a Zeratul or Illidan-based composition. Obviously, as the draft moves on a little bit, we'll see how that plays out. Flick of the wrist, though, they are picking up themselves the wizard himself, Kael'thas, and their second pickup here can be a lot of different people. The Tassadar is very effective on this map because he grants so much AoE vision, and again, it's comes back to that it's such a small map that vision really, really helps out.
Yeah, vision is so important on this map, too, because there are 2 places where you can turn in instead of just the one turn-in spot like Blackheart's base. So being able to have vision over both of those is so nice. So we often see Scouting Drone picked up here. We also often see Zagara very good on this map because she can spread the creep all the way through. But flick of the wrist, going to go ahead and grab Sylvanas. So choosing to have a very push-heavy hero here who can help those web weavers push down structures even faster. Now we will have Plato get 2 more heroes before we see the next phase of bans. They're going to get Jaina. I still think that, like you mentioned, Zeratul could be a huge possibility here because he is fantastic on this map.
They're going with a Nubrak and Jaina, which is last game was a recipe for success for them. So they're sticking with what they know. This time they're able to get the Uther, though. And, or actually, yeah, that totally works. Now, Sylvanas and Kael'thas, that is a very, very strong backline that Flick of the Wrist has right now. So their backline is pretty much secured. They have 2 of the best backline range assassins in the game right now. Kael'thas, he kind of comes online at level 16, and when he does come online, though, holy cow, is it explosive. Literally and metaphorically. Flick of the Wrist, though, they felt the Zeratul pickup. They don't want to deal with that Zeratul. Zeratul has really just come on to the scene competitively, and people do not want to deal with him. So Flick of the Wrist don't want to deal with it either. And I really like that decision because Kael'thas, a good Zeratul, can really make Kael'thas' life a pain in the butt.
Yeah, I really like both of these second bans, recognizing that Uther and deciding to ban out both they banned Kerrigan first, but then also Zeratul. So really it would just come down to Illidan if they still do want to get one of those strong melee damage dealers. But similarly, PPST picking Uther and then banning 2 supports, Brightwing and Rhaegar. So they are really limiting the amount of possibilities for Flick of the Wrist here. It will most likely be Malfurion, right? Who am I missing?
I would imagine so. Unless Flick of the Wrist knows something I don't about Lily. I feel Malfurion is the far superior healing support in the way that the meta is right now. So I think we're going to see the Malfurion, and they might possibly go Double Warrior just because Malfurion complements Double Warrior composition so very well, and it can really handle heavy initiation. I mean, if Plato wants to stick with the tried and true and what got him that last match with the Tyrael Nubrak, a good way to deal with that is just a good front line that can help solidify your backline and protect your backline. So no, they went for the Tassadar instead. So that leads me to believe they know they're going to get the Malfurion. They know that's what they want to do. So Flick of the Wrist, almost barring some crazy draft strategy we haven't seen, almost guaranteed either Malfurion or Lily, more than likely Malfurion. and that is going to be rounding up their draft in the next round. Though Pool Plato, they got 2 decisions to make here, and they can go double warrior again. They can get with a little bit more damage. What do you think here, Gilly?
Well, I think they'll probably go double warrior again because it worked out so well for them in the last game. And Nubarak, not known, I mean, he's a little squishier for sure in terms of, like you mentioned, he's more of a bruiser than a full-on tank as a warrior. So it's very possible we could see the Tyrael as a judgment straight down into the flanks. Grabbing Kael'thas would be very helpful there. So I think Tyrael's probably a possibility, and then some sort of damage dealer. Maybe even Vala again would be great. Multi-shot build, really good on this map. You can clear out lanes very, very quickly and grab those gems before rotating to the other lanes. Lane rotations in this map are key, and that would,
very important.
Yes, and all of those 2 heroes there would really help with that.
I mean, they might, they're going with the Tyrael, and I think we're going to see a Vala pick up here, Gilly. Possibly. Okay, no, a Falstad. So they're going with a Falstad over the Vala. They're exchanging kind of, reliable backline damage with big burst. Falstad does have some reliable damage in his skill set, but mostly he's all about that big burst, and Falstad complements this lineup, I feel, so very well, Gilly, and I'll tell you why. Because the initiation, they do a big judgment into an Anubarak Burrow charge, and on top of that, the little cherry on top, a Hinterland's Blast. And so that is strong backline initiation. You follow it up with a Jaina Blizzard, the Water Elemental as well, and that is just so much burst. They're going to be able to get into the backline. Again, I feel like Kael'thas is going to be the target of this time around. Last time around, it was pretty much anyone that they could possibly get, though Kael'thas is so susceptible to this sort of strategy, these heavy dive compositions. And Malfurion, he's a great AoE healer. He's great for sustain, but his burst healing is very underwhelming when compared to that of a Rhaegar or an Uther, though they do have Tassadar to back that up a little bit. So they're really going to have to play really, really well to deal with the initiation of Plato, but if they can weather that the big storm of their initiation, they should be able to turn these team fights around. Yeah,
it's all going to come down to whether or not they can survive that judgment into the Hinterland Blast with the Nubarak right there with them. The judgment into Hinterland Blast, interestingly enough, if you guys aren't aware, has been dubbed by several community members as the Crispy Taco Wombo Combo. We're still unsure as to why it's called the Crispy Taco, but that is what it is. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. That also makes me very hungry, as I wasn't able to grab food before this match. So thanks a lot. I know, right? Thanks a lot, Pool Plato, for reminding me about tacos.
I don't know about you, but I could definitely go through some tacos right now. But right now, this is going to be Game 2, ladies and gentlemen, between Pool Plato and Flick of the Wrist, with Pool Plato coming out really strong in the first game. They executed very well with a lineup very, very similar to the one they have right now. The Nubarak Tyrael was the bread and butter that is what brought them into game number 2 with a victory. And if they can execute in the same manner, I believe that they really have what it takes to do a easy 2-0 sweep over Flick of the Wrist. Though, again, Flick of the Wrist, I think with that Kael'thas, they have, anytime you see Kael'thas, you have a great late game. The moment you hit that level 16, it's go time. They have a Murden to deal with initiation. Malfurion can lay down a good roots. He doesn't have cleanse though, and obviously Tassadar with damage mitigation through his shield. So, without any further ado, who do we have on the left side of the map, Gilly?
Well, in blue will be Flick of the Wrist. We've got E-Dubs playing Malfurion, Radlac on Tassadar, Schooled playing that Kael'thas, Leon Lal on Sylvanas, and playing Murden will be Shales.
And on the right side of your map, we're going to have King Plato playing the Falstad, B-Kid playing a Nubarak, Mookie's playing the Uther, Prismatic is playing Jaina, and Apollo playing the Tyrael.
Aren't these names fun?
They're wonderful.
They really test your ability to be able to say things on the fly. But look what we have here from Pool Plato.
Oh, if Radlac, all Radlac has to do is use Oracle, and the jig is up. He just has to, I mean, they're all missing, right? So they know something is up. They're like, where is the enemy team? They're obviously up to shenanigans. So, and you can tell they're afraid to go, like, anywhere out in the middle of the lane. They're afraid of it. And look at this. They're really sticking to it. No, now they're starting to disperse a little bit and get into the lanes, because if you sit there for too long, you're actually going to get way far behind if you're not soaking that experience.
Yeah, that's very true, and you really don't want to get behind an experience on this map. It can be one of those where if you get really ahead, it can kind of snowball from there as you're able to control those turn-in points and just be able to stop your opponents from turning in. But vision is going to play a huge part in that as well, and that definitely does lend itself toward the flick of the wrist just a little bit because they can pick up, well actually they didn't get Scouting Drone, but they still do have Oracle from Tassadar, which will help a lot with that.
Yeah, it's interesting to see Malfurion not getting Scouting Drone because, as you mentioned, vision is so imperative on this map. They do have the Tassadar, it would complement so very well, but it looks like he wants to go with a little bit more sustain. Malfurion in the early game, he really doesn't come online until level 7, level 10 in there. His early game, his heals aren't really that strong. He runs out of mana very quickly. So the early game is very fragile right now, especially with the lineup that Plato has, where they have such a strong roaming combination with the Anubarak and the Jaina. And you can tell that's what they're going to try to do here. Down in the mid lane, Kael'thas is going to get stunned up. Can they follow it up with a Blizzard on top of a beautiful stun for B-Kid? And there's our first blood in the mid lane, going the way of Plato.
Yeah, man, that Impale was insane from B-Kid. That enabled them to go ahead and pick that up. Going to get a little bit ahead in terms of experience, but at the early game, it's not too big of a deal because the respawn timers are very, very quick. So B-Kid actually doing a really good job of camping some of these gyms here in mid 2, trying to stop his opponents from being able to do that. But now we've got the gank squad once again up top. Apollo and Prismaticism might come back through. They actually see Schooled once again. They might try to catch him. A great Eldrin's Might plus double stuns from the Anubarak. Not quite enough. He was at least very close to the gate and will survive that one.
Very well played by E-Dubs there, laying down a beautiful root. Schooled even manned up himself and laid down a stun, and that turned that around. No one going down, but the experience pretty even. Level 4 talents here across the board. And Gilly, it looks like we're seeing a Thunderclap build coming out of Murden, as opposed to last game when we saw him, he was doing more of his stun build. So he's going with that Reverberation, which is such a strong talent, and it really lends itself very well to any sort of frontliner right clickers.
Yeah, exactly right. And with 2 warriors, that will be very nice indeed. But now it looks like a great root on Apollo's, keeping him back. But unfortunately, E-Dubs was far forward to drop those roots and does not have a lot of escape on that Malfurion. I mean, later on at 13, you can get that ice block, but until then, really, it's just being able to nab somebody with your roots as you're running away.
That's exactly right. So business as usual. Only 2 kills so far, which is a little bit low considering the lineup that Plato has, but look at this movement. That's the thing about aggressive early game lineups, is there's other ways in Heroes of the Storm to gain yourself an advantage other than by getting hero kills. And what they are doing here is they're going down to these, what I like to call the neutral camp, at the bottom, getting the Siege Ogres, and this is going to grant them some experience, and it's really going to put a lot of pressure in the bottom lane. So if they're able to coordinate this well, right when they hit around level 7, get a turn-in, they can get a lot of structure damage here and snowball out of control.
Looks like Plato might even be trying to pick up a takedown here, but won't quite be able to do so. A really good job by Flick of the Wrist, staying a little bit defensive there. They realize that their opponents have that very strong gank possibility. And I wanted to note that Tassadar did end up picking Healing Ward still at level 4. It's kind of an old school thing. We haven't seen that quite a bit. And I even wondered if he was going to go for that mental acuity just to have Oracle up even more, as we have already seen Plato give a lot of rotations. But for now, Plato are content with the turn, and they're going to pick up those first Web Weavers.
So yeah, like I said, those Siege Ogres put pressure into the bottom lane, able to get the turn-in. Now they're going to have level 7 around the same time. So what I want to know is, what talent is Uther going to go? The last time we saw an Uther, he went with the Holy Fire talent, which kind of built into that strategy of the big AoE. I think that was more specific to the Lost Vikings. Obviously, we're not going to see Lost Vikings this time around. So he is going to go with the more traditional cleanse. And I like that. It's going to help deal with the Murden, it's going to help deal with the Kael'thas, and also the Malfurion as well.
Yeah, there are a lot more potential for somebody to get caught out with those roots, and of course the Kael'thas with the Gravity Labs as well. So I do like that cleanse pickup a lot. Now we're seeing that the red Web Weavers are starting to push forward. A lot of times with this first early Web Weavers, you won't really see a team committing too much to one lane trying to get into a fort. Sometimes it can be a little bit too risky to do that, so instead we're seeing them push, split up and push. That way they can still soak in lane, as well as just try to take down towers wherever possible. Now Mookies and B-Kid are a little bit far forward, but Apollo and Prismaticism are rotating to help, so we may actually see them going for this fort here, as only Radlack and Schooled right here are defending. Now E-Dubs and Leon Maul are coming in, but it may be too late. There's going to be a good shield on it. Will they be able to pick it up? It's going to be pretty close before they're going to need to run away. It looks like they will grab it.
Yeah, this bottom fort is forfeit, and unfortunately Flick of the Wrist was just a little bit slow to respond. And that is going to be the first fort of the game going down here at the 6-minute mark. And the bottom lane with those Siege Ogres down that they can get, and the future of the... A little bit of a pause there. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Figure out what's going on. Might be there a little bit of a lag. So hopefully this will resolve itself. Anyways, back to what I was saying. The bottom lane is now susceptible to pushes, and this also opens up the bruiser camp for Flick of the Wrist for Plato to take, because now they have an avenue to do so. It's a little bit more safer. They can make those kind of, if they want to go with that aggressive move when they're in an advantageous position, that avenue is now available to them.
Yeah, that's exactly right, and that's something to consider. Is there's on this map there are a lot of different lanes and kind of secret passageways you could use to be able to sneak into closer towards your opponent's base. And with taking down that bottom fort, they do have a couple of different avenues to go sneak in there, like you mentioned. Looking at a couple more of the talents while we're waiting for them to respond, I noticed that Malfurion went with Elun's Grace, so I think a little concerned with the range of some of his abilities and how far forward he has to get, especially to cast roots. We saw that was a problem earlier. He threw down roots and then got caught out from it, so picking that up as well, trying to stay as safe as possible versus this really aggressive composition.
I really like Elun's Grace. Level 7 for Malfurion is a very pivotal talent for him because he has a lot of really good talents on there. He can go Regrowth. He can go with the Elun's Grace as well. And I like the Elun's Grace in this particular situation because, as you mentioned, it has defensive utility with it, but also offensive as well. So now he has more range where he can get a good roots off or a good Moonfire to secure a kill and whatnot. So I really like that pickup. I think it lends itself well, especially when you have the Kael'thas and Tassadar, who are already two heroes who have great ranged abilities.
Oh, we mentioned that the avenue was clear to these bruisers, and Apollo is coming in, and King Plato even flying in too. Malfurion will go down. That Hinterland Blast was huge, and even though we have Web Weavers pushing on the side of Flick of the Wrist, it's going to be Plato who engages as they have those level 10 abilities, picking up the Kael'thas. Shale's desperately trying to get away, but does not quite Dwarf Toss over the wall, will be taken out. So that's going to be 3 heroes taken out by Pool Plato, who are even going to look to take this fort, or at least throw a lot of damage on it with those bruisers while simultaneously defending the Web Weavers.
With the level 10 advantage, those heroic abilities, Plato pretty much just said, you know what, it's go time. And they went in, and as you mentioned, they got that bruiser camp pickup. They got themselves in, I mean, they started diving underneath a fort. They were feeling good, and in an act of hubris, were able to get kills underneath the fort this early on. So they're feeling good right now. But they need to make sure not to do those sort of movements, because once Flick of the Wrist does have level 10, if they do something like that, they will get punished for it, especially with the Phoenix and Kael'thas on top of Malfurion roots. So it was a calculated decision. I like the decision. It paid off for them, but they got to be a little bit more careful here in the future.
Yeah, definitely. Some of the heroics we did see, we had Judgment, Hinterland Blast, Locust Swarm, the Water Elemental, and then we do still have the Divine Shield for Uther. Now, it looks like Flick of the Wrist, almost level 10, trying to lane as much as possible, get Cat back up there, have their own heroic abilities, and there they've picked them up. We'll see what they're deciding to choose.
I'm sorry, did you say something?
So we're seeing a Tranquility, no double silence shenanigans today, Gilly. And Sylvanas going with the Willing Arrow as well down to the bottom lane. BK is initiating, followed with that Hinterland's Blast down to the Judgment. Great execution, but can they actually get schooled down? He's solo, they do get it. So with that big initiation lineup that we were talking about, Gilly, they're able to bring down the Kael'thas. Malfurion going down as well. Shales is completely on his own. Falstad is going to take down his Dwarven brother. And a great team fight for Plato right there. Now they're diving once again underneath this fort. Leon's going to go down. So a 4-for-1 exchange. Going to get themselves a fort mid lane, level 13 on the horizon as the Weavers are pushing. And once again, they're in a great position.
Yeah, they really are. Radlock actually took Force Wall trying to save his teammates, but unfortunately there wasn't really much of an escape from Sylvanas once she'd used those Banshees, so was not able to get away. And now because of this really strong push once again from Pool Plato Centangos, as they do have their level 13 talents. So once again they're ahead in terms of talent here. They're going to pick up those structures. It's going to push them even further ahead, and in the midst of all that they even got a turn in. So they're going to rotate up, pick up the fort here, and this is just going to help them stay so far ahead in experience. And this is what I was talking about. When you start to get ahead in experience, your lanes are so far pushed because of the turn-ins that you're able to see when anyone tries to rotate in and turn in from your opponent's side.
The Weavers have now been cleaned up for Flick of the Wrist. Looking at their turn-in situation, they don't have enough for a turn-in. On the other side of the coin, neither does Plato. So we won't see any Weavers anytime soon. Now, if I was in Flick of the Wrist shoes, I'd be thinking, what do I do to have to get myself back in this game? And right now, they just need to bide their time. With the big initiation, they almost survived that initiation. The combo that we talked about, the crispy taco, if you will, Billy. Schooled almost survived it. he was so close to getting away. And if he lived just a little bit longer, was able to get his combination off, they could have turned the tide in that team fight. But once level 16 is here, they need to bide their time, be patient, defend, don't give up too much ground. They're going to have to give up a little bit because they're already behind. But if they can not give up too much ground, remain patient, get level 16 without taking too much damage on the structure front, they can really turn this around. That's really what they need to do. Because anytime you have a kill thoughts, that's always your mindset, is let's get to level 16 and take it from there.
Well, it looks like they do not want to allow Plato to pick up this boss. They know they're here and they're all coming up, but remember they don't have 13 talents. This is going to be shady. Kilthos is throwing out some damage, and there will be the Phoenix to help zone, but unfortunately King Plato is there already picking it up, and there is the Hinterland Blast. Edub so low, but did drop Tranquility, so they're all still alive for now, but now Malfurion has gone down, as will Kael'thas. Judgment straight down onto Sylvanas will help pick that up as Tassadar goes down too. A team wipe coming out from Pool Plato, some tangos, and even a boss pickup on top of that.
So, Plato getting themselves a handful. All 5 team members are Flick of the Wrist, getting taken down here. They got the boss, as you mentioned, Gilly. This top keep more than likely forfeit. And I'm sensing a little impatience here out of Flick of the Wrist. The Malfurion was really in the thick of it. And generally, that's something you don't want to see. I mean, he went Illune's Grace. He's got the range. He doesn't really have to be in the front line, but I think he mistaked himself for a Murden there, Gilly. And because of that, he got punished, and the follow-up initiation after Malfurion went down on a Schooled was impressive. And that is kind of what's lending them to it. Now they have a 2-talent tier advantage, both level 13 and level 16. Looking at the turn-in situation, I believe, math is hard, they have just enough for a turn-in here.
Yeah, and I mean, if you look at the lanes, it already looked like they had turned in because they had Merc camps pushing on every single lane, the boss on top, the bruisers in mid, the siege giants on bottom, and now with that they were able to turn in with ease. No issue there at all. They're level 16, they're even grabbing these bruisers here. I wonder if we'll see Flick of the Wrist once again be too aggressive here, be impatient, not wanting to lose these, but unfortunately this is going to be really rough as the web weavers, remember, do push straight up to wherever the minions are currently at, so these are already going to be very far forward.
Tessar's going to have to lay down some force walls indeed. He's going to have to channel his inner Huck and get those force fields down, but I don't think he's going to be able to here. As with, they do have level 13 though, but once again they don't have 16. They're going to be losing so much ground here, Gilly. Their core is going to be under siege. Mid-keep is going to be dead to rights. A Phoenix is being laid down just to zone. A good root on Interior. I don't think they have any follow-up. They don't. Tassadar is using the shield on the keep to try to keep it alive. It is out of ammo now. So now this is going to be the go time for Plato to secure themselves a keep. And don't forget, they could just sit here and be a distraction. Top lane is pushing in. Bottom lane is under siege as well. The fountain goes down. No more fountains for Flick of the Wrist. And they're just losing ground one step after another. And they got to get level 16. They got to get it. Now there's initiation. Oh my lord, beautiful execution there, Gilly. The Judgment immediately followed up by the Hinterland's Blast. And Schooled just gets kicked out of class and taken down. Malfurion using the Ice Block, but I believe he inevitably is going to be taken down as well. And right now it looks like Plato might be taking this game.
Yes, indeed. They've already got the shields down now. 30 seconds until Malfurion's up. 20 seconds for the rest of them. Wailing Arrow going off into the distance. A swan song, if you will, for Flick of the Wrist, as Pool Plato is going to pick up this win. And even a Sylvanas still on top of it, just for fun times.
Once again, Plato went with that initiation lineup and complemented this time with the Falstad, hence known as the Crispy Taco. And you could tell they were hungry because they executed it very, very well. That last initiation they had on a Schooled was perfect. Took him out before he was able to do anything. And as I mentioned, I feel like Flick of the Wrist, they got a little impatient, especially that last team fight at the boss, Gilly. It felt a little bit disorganized. They weren't on the same page, and they just got picked apart because of it. And that doesn't lend very well when you have a Kael'thas. Again, when you have a Kael'thas, your late game is secured. The problem is you have to get there. Yes. And they lost so much ground that they weren't able to pick it up again. They weren't able to get themselves back into the match and just kind of slowly lost the war of attrition to Plato. So congratulations to them.
Yeah, it was interesting to me that that was their map pick, and then yet knowing that it is, you can't really lose the early game on that map because it's so small, it can start to snowball against you if you do, and then going ahead and saying, no, we're still going to do a late game comp, we've got our double support, we've got our Kael'thas, but a really great try by them. Congrats to Pool Plato. They will be moving on to the next round. I'm going to check the bracket really fast and see if we know who their opponents will be. It looks like we don't next, so it will be the winners of Wombology versus Shuffle Button. These names killing me.
Can you say Shuffle Button again?
Shuffle Button.
Excellent.
Shuffle Button. It's a good time. Well, hopefully, no offense, Shuffle Button, but I don't know if I want to say that for 3 possible games. No, I'm just kidding. We'll make it work, but we're going to take a break while we get the next game ready. When we come back, we'll have Pull Plato Some Tangos versus the winner of Wombology, and one more time for you, ShaneGoocher, Shuffle Button.